Hey guys, welcome to another episode here of The Scott Show. I got my longtime friend and musician pal for, heck, it seems like it's been longer than...
Long time.
I don't know. To me, it feels like it's been like 20 years, but it hasn't been 20 years.
That's pretty close.
We've done a lot. So basically, we're going to start off. This is Stephen Dale Vincent. He currently has an album out right now called What a Journey that was just released a couple weeks back. And we're going to be talking about What a Journey here coming up in the timeline of what we're going to be talking about. So basically, kind of what the interview structure is going to be is kind of what the title of your album is, What a Journey. We're going to be talking about that journey here today with Stephen Dale Vincent. So basically, Steve, kind of let the folks know where you first was introduced to music, kind of what, I guess, got you into wanting to play.
Right. Well, pretty much just started tapping on the drums when I was walking, really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, went from there to drums and then started playing banjo probably around 7 or 8 years old, I guess. So kind of started playing both of them at around the same time.
Dang.
But Little League became a little bit more important when I was 7.
Right.
So I kind of put the banjo down for a while, but came back to that when I was around probably 10 or 11, and then never put it down since, you know.
I got you.
So it was drums and banjo, you know, through my teenage years, and then didn't really pick the violin up till I was about 20 or so.
Gotcha. So to kind of give some context to the banjo, was that kind of more of your father's influence? Because I know the bluegrass is pretty prominent in your family.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that'd be safe to say.
Because he plays as well, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, he played guitar. But yeah, you go to these bluegrass festivals and you always have 15 guitar players and
one banjo player is probably playing with everybody because nobody else plays.
Right. So I just didn't want to be another guitar player, really. I didn't pick up guitar till later.
Gotcha.
You know. But
so like in high school or middle school or anything, was you ever was you writing songs then, or was you working on honing your craft as a musician, or kind of?
Yeah, through high school was mainly, again, drums and banjo. I started writing a little bit, I'd say. That's probably where my writing started, was, you know, 9th, 10th grade, I'd say.
Gotcha.
You know.
Okay. Now, whenever you were, say, when was your first, live performance? First time you ever played out in front of anybody? Even if it was like a family event or something like that, or? I had one family event that I did drums. I used to do, you know, the tracks behind me, and then I'd play drums along with the tracks. I've always done that. But at Dave Surbeck's out in Patterson, I got on top of a flatbed trailer. There's your stage.
And that was probably the first one. But really after that was Patterson Opry was really the first, you know, big stage that with lights and everything, right. You know. That.
Now, was the Patterson Opry, was it still at the old Patterson High School where it's still at?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't for sure. Because from growing up, I knew where it was at, but I didn't know that if it was ever at another location. Because I know sometimes things change, you know.
I don't know if it was. I think it was originally there along the tracks at Cox's auction.
Really?
I think maybe. I don't know. But
anyway, somebody out there, if you know, let us know. It'd be an interesting fact for us here. So did you ever, after playing around on some drums and stuff like that, did you ever play any local area bands, or was you kind of always geared towards, I guess, what was the point that made you realize that I want to do music like more of a full-time thing, not as just like some hobby that I do on a Sunday afternoon or something like that?
I don't know. That's a good question, really. I never could get away from it, really.
Gotcha.
I mean, when I would sit and play music or banjo, drums, or either one, I mean, it would be for hours. It wouldn't be for half hour.
Now, let me tell you something. When he says about practicing for hours, I've heard it and I've experienced it. So I know that he practices more than anybody that I know of that does any kind of practicing.
Well, luckily I don't have to practice now.
Well, no, no. I was speaking more to the time whenever you learned where he's learning piano.
But all of them took a lot of time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But practice years are over. Now it's just fun.
So kind of tell us what, after high school, what did you... Well, you went to the military.
Yeah.
After high school, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what'd you do, like after when you came back, what was, as far as music, how did that play into your life? And like, what was the next, like, I guess, milestone or event in the timeline that happened?
That was probably to move to Nashville. I had to have money to move to Nashville, so I was in the reserves at that time. I did some volunteer work up in Peoria. That was when the first Gulf War was actually started back, early 90s is when it started, but things were coming back, trucks were coming back,
right,
stuff like that. So I went to Peoria to help. I was a mechanic, so I fixed all the trucks that come in.
Oh, cool. I didn't.
Well, that was my way of getting money to get to Nashville.
Oh, hey.
I had to have a way to get to
Gotta
Nashville.
Have a plan.
So a couple months worth of work there would allow me to get to Nashville. So that's when I had enough money, I said, I'm out of here.
And just rolled to Nashville, man. So what was it like? Had you ever been to Nashville prior to that?
Yeah.
You moved there without ever even going? Oh, my goodness.
Like thousands of others, just, I'm going to roll into town. And I just felt like I could roll in and get a job like everybody else,
Yeah.
And
man, that's crazy.
It was very scary, I must say.
I've thought, years ago, I thought about moving down there, but I was like, I'm gonna go check it out because I couldn't even, because that's a very intimidating town.
Yeah, it was.
To move to. So, I mean, there's anybody that listens to any interviews with other country artists or any musical artists, there's even more than country music that comes out of Nashville. But man, I couldn't imagine just not ever even visiting at one time and just moving there. Wow.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about some of the fear part of it. I guess.
Right.
I was young. I mean, you're talking 20, 21, so it was just I knew this is what I was going to do. But after a week looking for a job, you don't find a job,
right.
And then the car breaks down, and then there was a lot of things that were roadblocks.
So how was you able to overcome some of them roadblocks?
Just had to go. Back then, you didn't have to fill out so many applications like you do now.
Right.
I mean, I literally went to a truck terminal, I think it was, and walked in and just said, I need a job today.
Yep.
I'm from out of town. I need a job today. And he said, well, go down to this other place, that deals with aftermarket auto parts.
Mm-hmm.
He said, they're always looking for people. So I just walked in and said, I want to see the manager right now. I mean,
Dang,
I don't know how I
man.
pulled it off like that back then, but and luckily the manager was from Peoria, Illinois.
What?
Yeah, I walked in and I said, hey, I'm from Illinois, so I need a job right now.
Right.
That was on a Friday, I remember, because I was like, I'm about out of time, out of money. That was on a Friday, and he said, come back Monday.
Wow.
So I worked there over 2.5 years,
Isn't that funny how kind of like life works? Is like sometimes when you're like your back is literally up against the wall, and it's like you almost feel like there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
But then
That's what pushes you. I mean.
Yeah, I mean that's whenever you really find out what you're made of,
Well,
And so how many years do you spend in Nashville?
almost 5 probably.
In 5 years.
Yeah.
So what would you say if you had to pick like some of the highlights and things? Because I know you learned, you really picked up on the fiddle / violin playing
That's where
there.
the violin came up was if I got to spend every week in Stuart Duncan's living room, learning from him. And
Explain to the folks a little bit who Stuart Duncan is a little bit.
well, he's just a highly sought after session musician in Nashville. A lot of times, any of those award shows you'd turn on, he was always the one playing in the background.
Right.
There for years. And Mark O'Connor, I went to his violin camp when I was down there.
Mm-hmm.
He was a huge influence
Another
too.
well-known.
Aubrey Haney was another one in Nashville. He played for Clint Black when I was down there. He was an amazing player.
And to get a job playing for another, like a big artist, and at that time, Clint Black was as big as anybody.
Yeah.
And that's a tough gig to get. So whenever you said Stuart Duncan, how did that come about? Was it just through connections or?
I was at the Station Inn there in Nashville.
Okay.
That nightclub, and real small, intimate place, and he was on stage. Matter of fact, him and Sam Bush both. They come off stage, and I just started talking to him. And said,
right.
And I thought, well, why not ask him? So I said, do you give fiddle lessons? He said, well, yeah, I guess I can.
Wow.
Like nobody really ever asked him before or something.
Right.
But,
well, a lot of times, I mean, I'm sure you were a little nervous or intimidated by him, I mean.
Well, you just figured they'll say no, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, so like they're so busy that they just can't do that.
Like they say, you never know until you ask,
Yeah, that was a question well asked there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You get to pick his brain, one-on-one. It would have been, not too many people get an opportunity like that.
Right. And I was just so new at it, though, that I couldn't pick up everything he was throwing at me.
Right.
That's the thing. If it could have been years later.
Right.
But he did get me off to a good start. Between him and the other professionals in Nashville, got off to a good start with violin.
Right. Now, as far as before you came back to Illinois from Nashville, was there anything else from that time period that really stands out in your mind?
Not really.
Now, did you do any fiddle competitions down there, or was that afterwards?
There, that was
afterwards. Okay,
yeah,
I remember you saying that. I was trying to think. I was like, so basically, like in your time in Nashville is really where you really honed your craft. Really, it sounds like, and you were still playing banjo throughout that whole time as well.
Right. That time there was more starting and learning on the violin, and then just catching up everything with. I'd kind of gotten out of drums. I wasn't really wanting to be a drummer then.
Gotcha.
I was more wanting to banjo and fiddle.
Yeah.
But I didn't really play out for money or anything down there. It was more just learning, soaking up things, and seeing where I needed to be, because I wasn't musically where I needed.
Right.
Needed to be. Watching those guys, when you watch professionals for 2-5 years.
Yep.
You see where you need to be, and then I knew I could get back to Illinois and then practice more
and grow off that.
I couldn't practice enough there. Just time you work 8 hours and kids and where you're going to practice. I knew I needed at least 2-3 hours a day to catch up with them guys.
Yeah, you ain't. Let alone the 8 hours working to drive to and from is always adds into that time frame. So time definitely becomes a big issue there. But that's pretty interesting, because to be able to spend time to hone your craft, some of the best advice I was ever given was always be preparing, because you never know when you're going to get the call or to do something. Because if you're not prepared for something, I've played gigs unprepared before, and it's just no fun.
It's horrible, yeah.
Yeah. And like I always tell people in Nashville, like you said, that you learned a lot from even just seeing people play down there. And for folks that haven't been to Nashville, to explain the level of talent that of the people that live there that play, even just on the main street there, Broadway, there are all the tons of bars there, the hundreds of thousands of musicians that play down there that you will never hear of are some of the best in the world.
Yeah, they really are.
And it's mind blowing in a way. You can go door to door to door to door, and it's just fantastic musicianship.
Yeah, they really are.
And then so you came back to Illinois. Now, was this about the time frame that you started on your first solo album? Or did anything happen before in the meantime?
Kind of. That was 2003, so I would have started in 2000 on that CD.
Right, we were just talking about that before we started this.
So, I hadn't been home 5-6 years probably.
Okay. Now, was you playing with anybody else at the time, or?
Not really. I started playing drums for, can't even remember the band now. It was
I never knew.
Kurt Hall and them. And,
okay, yeah. Kurt Hall actually got brought up in our last conversation. We were talking about Notorious Nightcrawlers.
That's who it was, but they had changed names. I can't remember.
Right.
But anyway, he needed
That's the thing in a small town. A lot of times it's the same guys in the band with different names.
He come beating on the door one night, just needed a drummer really bad. And so I thought it was going to be one of those one-night deals, and ended up being a year later.
Right.
So, but it was fun.
Yeah.
But
so then you're about the time that I always known who you were because me and my dad figured out on the last episode we talked about you're my dad's second cousin.
I think so.
Yeah, so you'd be my third. So basically, your dad and my grandpa are first cousins, I believe.
I think so.
Hope I got that right. But anyways, so I've always known who Steve was growing up and stuff, but never really actually knew him. The first time I actually remember meeting you, which I remember actually having a conversation with you, which I'll bring it up after we talk about it. It revolves around your CD, your first solo CD you put out called Everything But Bass. Why that title?
Because I played everything but bass.
Yep. Every instrument on there. So, and where was that recorded at? It was in the studio in St. Louis?
Yeah, Smith Lee Productions in St. Louis. So.
Okay. And now whenever you released that CD, I remember seeing it. It was in the local newspaper we have around here. It's called the Green Prairie Press. And it literally had like your phone number in there. It said, if you want to buy a CD, call him, So I called you. And I remember you said, like, come by. It was a couple days after I called you. And to come by and pick up the CD. It was like 6 in the evening. You probably don't even remember this, do you?
Not really.
I would have. See, when did you release that? What year? 2003?
3, yeah. But...
Oh, shit. I had been a freshman in high school, maybe. And so I remember going, I think you were selling them for $10. Or 10 or 15.
Probably.
And so we're knocking on the door and meeting you. I was like, man, this guy, he's freaking got a CD. He's living in freaking Whitehall. This is crazy. I mean, as a kid, that I've always played music growing up and always aspired to even, let alone record something, And so I got the CD from him, and I think that was probably the last time I really actually had a conversation with you till about 7 years later in 2009 or so. Yeah, it might have been around then. So, but yeah, I had that CD, and or I take that back. I also, after you'd released that CD, it might have been a year or two later, you were playing, I believe it was the Greene County Days, which is an annual celebration we have here in Greene County. You were playing the Greene County Days here in Whitehall. You had a drum set. You had a snare drum, you had a bass drum, a hi-hat, I think a fiddle and a microphone, or a banjo and a microphone. It was a contraption of a lot of instruments on one person, and you were just kind of doing it all, and you played a whole set. Do you remember doing that?
Yeah, I think I remember doing that.
That was crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I could imagine. I have a hard enough time playing guitar and singing and tapping my foot, let alone even trying to do anything else. Man. So after that CD release, kind of what was something that happened after? Like what happened after that? Because I didn't really cross paths with you until around 2008-9 area. So that's a good about 6-7 years. Was that had you started playing with Rick by then?
Yeah.
Rick Sievers?
Right. I went from playing drums with that band to got in with Rick Sievers and Wolf over in Cantsville.
Wolf Grissom, yeah.
Yeah, Wolf Grissom. And we just played everywhere. I mean, for almost 20 years now. I quit them after this last year. Mm-hmm. And
definitely one of the top 3-piece acts in the area. I mean, you guys, and just the catalog you guys had was something that always you never saw the same show twice. I didn't feel like it was all just. I mean, there was some staples of songs that you. I mean, and every band does that, but. Yeah, your guys' catalog was.
Well, he's got a ton of them. He knows a lot of them.
Rick, he's got a computer for a brain. I think he was like abducted by aliens or something, had it transplanted or something.
Been. I can't remember that many songs.
No. So then after that is when I kind of ran into you. I was putting together. Actually, I had a band put together to go on a USO tour to play in Honduras and Bogota, Colombia for their 4th of July celebration in 2009. And at the time, my drum player hadn't gotten his passport, so I was like, well, what am I going to do? And I remember I was at Paradise Club in Whitehall.
I do remember
still
that.
Here. You remember that night?
Yeah, I do remember that.
I remember where we were sitting at, too, because you walked down the stairs, and they had the little L-shaped bar, and you were sitting right there. And I was just talking to you just about kind of things that had gone on. We had never played music together. I don't even think you'd probably ever heard anything I'd ever done or anything. But we knew each other.
Right.
And I just remember telling you about asking you if you knew of any drummers, and you were like, I play drums. And then so I was like, well, okay. So I got your number, and we then literally I think that was and you already had your passport. And so I think that was about 3 weeks before we actually flew out of the United States.
Yeah.
And I think, how many practices did we have?
Not
2?
enough. Yeah.
2 or 3. And
2 or 3.
Yeah, so we all hopped on it. It was me, you. Bass was John Coates, which is actually the guy that taught me how to play guitar. along with his cousin Kenny. Shout out to Kenny out there, and Matt Kleinman, which he had we never met him actually until we were on meeting at the airport. So here we are going to play a show, and which we didn't know what to expect for one. We knew we'd be playing for, there'd be some military people there though, so we didn't really know exactly what that would entail. And so Matt Kleinman was on the lead guitar for us. He was one of my manager's other band's lead guitar players. So long story short, we didn't really have any trouble flying down to Honduras. I'm trying to think if there was anything really...
No, we got in Honduras okay, but
right. Well, at the time, I remember it like it was yesterday. Whenever we'd flown into, we were in Miami, and then I remember on the news they were talking about in Honduras, which is where we were going, Tegucigalpa, Honduras. They had literally like that day or day before that we were flying in.
Day before,
yeah, had a military coup where the citizens or the military overthrew the government or something.
I don't remember which it was. But they ousted the president,
yeah,
basically.
He was hiding out in Costa Rica. And so it was pretty... I was kind of naive at the time. I was like, it ain't no big deal, you know. I don't know. What was kind of going through your mind?
I didn't think it was a big deal until we got there. Mm-hmm. And my whole mind changed.
Yeah, it kind of explained to folks what happened where we got to the airport at Tegucigalpa, Honduras. Let alone the landing was pretty wild.
The landing... And to find out, it's the second dangerous airport to land in.
I believe that.
I've seen it on TV.
Yeah. Look her up on YouTube, landing at Tegucigalpa, Honduras. It is pretty crazy.
But no, you mean getting into the airport itself when we get off the airplane.
Right.
And then, it's a building about the size of a gymnasium, really, isn't it? I mean, yeah. And it was just literally elbow-to-elbow guards with machine guns on the back, pistols down in both legs, mm-hmm. and like wallpaper all the way around this building. And then we had a circle of guards around us with the same, gear on.
Yep.
And there was probably 8 of them around just us.
At least, yeah, just around the band and the manager.
So then that's when my whole mind changed.
Yeah, that's when it got real.
That's when my stomach dropped, and I was like, okay.
And they walked us up to get our bags off the little, whatever you call that. Carousel, yeah. Here we go. And so I remember we got off that, and then we went to... Then they walked us straight out into that was when I had the van out there. Right. Do you remember the drive up the mountain and to the air base?
Missing the goats and the...
Mm-hmm.
And... They don't respect other people's driving there.
No, and I remember the guy told us that he was driving the van the whole time, and was it second gear
whole time? It sounded like RPMs were 4,000. And
that they don't respect the driving there. They don't really respect the lines on the road like we do in the States. It's just kind of a free for all.
If you want to pass, you pass, and if somebody's coming, oh well.
Yep, they better get out of the way.
Get over. They got brakes.
And then we finally got to the base, and due to the coup, we weren't allowed to go outside of the base until the day we left. So we were there for maybe 3 days,
yeah, I think so.
And because they had originally the itinerary had plans for us to go outside of the base and do different things. And I don't remember a whole bunch from the base other than staying in that hooch and then the different bars. A hooch is has a living room in the center, and then there was maybe 6 bedrooms off of it.
Probably. And
no bathroom. Remember we had to walk to the...
That's right, we did.
They had to walk down the street, and that's where they took a shower
That's right.
Went to the bathroom.
And they're about 3 foot high off the
right.
off the ground, so that the monsoons that come in about 1 o'clock in the afternoon the water just rolls underneath the building.
That was the most bizarre thing. When I was first time I'd ever seen it, because we were in the jungle there, and to see it pour down rain for 10 minutes and then just stop, and it's boom, sun shining like crazy, and there's no water on the ground. The heat, it blew my mind. Is there anything about the Honduras stop that really stands out to you?
No, I don't know. It was fun. I mean, other than the some of the danger part of it, I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, it was beautiful country. I mean, especially where we were at.
Oh, yeah.
And that was
What got me was at nighttime. Do you remember at night, because there was a big mountain off to kind of outside of where we were staying, and there was houses up there, and you
right,
see them kind of light up. It was almost like little
was cool.
lights on the hill. It was pretty interesting.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we played there. We played one show, I think, in Honduras. It was at that Air Force bar, I think.
We played more than that, I thought.
Or maybe we played 2 or 3. It all kind of just runs together.
At least 2 or 3, I thought. At
Yeah,
least 2.
You're probably right. I for some reason I just remember setting up whenever they at that Air Force bar. Maybe we played the same place multiple nights. That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah,
And I remember we ran into somebody. Well, yeah, it was all Air Force because, or no, they had different. There was different.
Yeah, they had Air Force bar and they had a
Army.
I think they had all of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
They had an Army and a what's the other one?
Marines.
Marines. Yeah, they had a Marine and they had a pilot bar. Remember? 'Cause
Yes,
the pilots had their own. The pilots were the funnest.
Yes, they were a riot.
They were the
Was that the
funnest.
one where we hung out with them most of the night?
Yeah, that's where we ended up. The last night, I think we were there.
Yeah, of course. The last night before we had to fly out and then cruised over to Bogota, Colombia, which was another experience because it was more of a, I'd put it more in the mind of just like a big U.S. city.
Right.
Yeah. Except for getting, do you remember whenever we got there, what they warned us about?
I remember.
About the powder that they could put on your skin that would knock you out and they'd steal all your money. Somebody.
I think I do remember that.
And we had our own security detail there, which I did not bring this up. I talked about this little tour before one time on like one of the more first beginning episodes, but I saved it because I wanted to wait till you were here so you could kind of tell the story because this is going to be good. Okay, well, whenever we get to Bogota, I think that same day was our sound check. And Sony was running sound there. And I remember now from where we were playing at in Honduras, were you kind of expecting the same kind of place to play at?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, but I figured we're playing at a embassy. It's
U.S. Embassy. I thought we'd be playing like inside at like a room or something, a
Right,
ballroom.
yeah,
I didn't know
too.
they'd be setting up a honking stage out front and over 5,000 people being there.
Yeah, I didn't either.
That was when it got real whenever we were up there doing sound check. And I just remember like, holy crap, this is wild. And I remember Matt Kleinman, he was like, this is going to be the best time of our lives. And he was, I'll talk more about Matt here. Actually, I'll go ahead and just say it right now. Matt actually ended up passing away 6 months or so after our tour. But we got, the whole time we hung out with him and got to know him literally from that week was pretty cool. And he was a super talented guy.
Yeah, he was.
Very heck of a singer, heck of a guitar player, and a great hangout. He was, I remember, I'll go ahead and tell this story because I know that he'd want it to be told. After we played at the 4th of July celebration in Bogota, Colombia, there was a group of people that we were all kind of talking to, and they ended up having like a party like somewhere out in the city, and he went to it, remember? He was left with the strangers. None of us, we were all too scared to, and Matt's like, what's the worst that can happen? And he went and did it. He was there and ready to go the next morning where we left. And he was a great time. And so after that first day, whenever we did the sound check, that we went back to our hotels, which we were actually staying in a Holiday Inn, like a brand new one.
That floor was.
We might have been the only one staying there.
That was we were the first ones in that room.
I remember hearing in the morning, boom, 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 people like working on another floor or something somewhere.
They were a floor above us.
But that night, I think it was just me and you, decided to go out. We went out to a bar that was just right kind of across the street. That was whenever you got up and played fiddle.
And we were all there.
We all four were?
Yeah.
I'll say I can't remember off the top of my head. It's just like it was so long ago. Well, what kind of band was it? Were they like a jazz band, salsa band, or like
that Sky maybe? Or
or ska band?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was.
There's like 15 people in the band.
It's the biggest band I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
And I remember you got to talking to one of the guys in the band, I think, didn't you?
I think the waitress got somehow tipped off that we were musicians from out out of town, out of country, or whatever.
Right.
And then it got down to the band somehow.
And then you had to go back to the hotel.
I must have went back and got the fiddle, yeah. Because I didn't take it with me. I mean,
yeah,
I wasn't planning on playing.
Shoot. And then I caught a little video of it, and actually I'll throw it up at the very end of this podcast. I'll throw it up on there so y'all can check out Steve rocking out in a whole nother country. But that night was a trip, and then trying to figure out the money thing, like the conversion. I had no clue what we were paying. I paid $100 a beer or something.
Yeah, $50 for a cheeseburger.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it was. Was it after that? Was it that night? Or was it after we had played at the 4th of July that we went to McDonald's?
Well, one of my things was I thought I was going to go to a foreign country and hear some good foreign, like, I don't say good, but I mean different music.
Yep.
And the first night we go to that bar on the corner and they're playing Johnny Cash.
Yeah, we're sitting. I mean, Steve, I remember
we play every weekend.
We were like a $10 pitcher of beer, and we're sitting there and thinking that it's going to be something. And yeah, it was. I want to say it might have been Ring of Fire
Folsom,
or Folsom Prison Blues. Yes,
yeah.
That's what it was.
I'm thinking, I hear this every weekend.
Yep.
I wanted to go to Columbia to hear their music.
I know,
they're playing our music.
Blew my mind. I could not believe it.
Can't get away from it.
And then so then following that, we went to go play the show at the embassy. What was kind of from your side? What was your experience of getting up there on that stage and looking out? I mean, it was a sea of people.
It was, yeah. I felt right at home. I felt like I'd finally was like, this is where I belong, really.
Right.
I mean, I didn't really have a lot of nervousness in me. Of course, drumming, you're back there and you just kind of get in your own world. I think, I'm more comfortable playing drums probably than anything. But I felt right at home. Felt like.
You also played fiddle on that. Did you remember?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I remember that now.
You played the bass drum and the hi-hat and the fiddle. Speaking of what we were talking about earlier, I believe we did a cover of Simple Man and Matt sang it. I believe. I could be easily wrong, but there ain't nobody here to prove me wrong. So it's like, but I'm pretty sure it was on a song, and I remember people thinking that was pretty cool. But I remember I remember it vividly in my mind. Because the first song we opened up with was a cover of Hootie and the Blowfish, "Only Want to Be with You." And I remember turning around to you and looking at you where you clicked off the 4 clicks. I remember hitting that first open E, and I was just like, I remember looking down at my moccasins with the light blue lights just shining down, and thinking, this is insane. It flew by so fast.
Oh man.
The biggest thing I remember, another thing that sticks out in my mind from that night was looking out and seeing a guy. He had a University of Texas hat on. For some reason, I could still see it like it was yesterday. And so we played the show. The show was fantastic. We got to meet the ambassador beforehand back in our dressing room. And we got to meet Fannie Lou.
Yes,
Fannie Lou. Yeah, Fannie Lou was.
She's about the equivalent to Britney Spears.
Yeah,
in fact, I've been watching some of her videos.
Yeah, she's still
lately.
going. She is huge in South America.
Yeah.
I mean, we played right before her. She was the main headlining act, and she blew the roof off the place. She had a great band. I remember. Yeah. They had a drummer. One thing I thought was cool. They had a drummer. I always find it cool when they have a drummer and another percussion person. Played some bongos and chimes and different things. It was pretty cool. And I'm trying to remember anything else from that time. I think it was after that we came back and we need to go back a little bit because the day before I remember we had our little host, I guess, and she took us up Mount Montserrat, which is almost 9,000 feet above sea level.
That was cool.
Took us out to a couple local restaurants. Or one local restaurant, and that was never me. We had a conversation about finding some food. You guys ended up finding a pizza place later on, I think. Or you didn't. Maybe it was John
in Columbia,
right? But we did find a McDonald's. Remember that night?
We did find a McDonald's.
We went to McDonald's and we were trying to figure out how to order. We're behind. Maybe I think it was 2 girls and a guy, a big tall guy. And you know where I'm going with this? And they, this
is late at night too. This is 2:00 probably.
Yeah, in the morning. And we, so these folks help us order, and they invite us to set with them. They spoke English and Spanish, so we did. And you tell it from your perspective, Steve.
Well, I'm just sitting there eating my sandwich, and you're talking, and this guy just comes over, and I think he flips from underneath. Didn't he? Flipped up your tray, or
no? He was talking to the girl that was sitting to my right, and I stood up, and I thought he was talking to me, like trying to say hi or something. So I just stood up and went to shake his hand like this, and I had my soda in my other hand, a 32-ounce soda, right. And then he like just flipped it up, and it just like went all down my body. It was bad. And
that's right.
And then I did not do anything. You don't do anything like that. You just got to accept it. And I sat back down, and we continued the night on. That's when we noticed, I don't know, it was one of the nights we were out, and we noticed that we had a security detail following us.
I think that was that night, because
right.
They'd gotten a little closer after that had happened, I noticed. It was kind of nice to know.
Right. After that happened, I remember I was like, "Oh my gosh, what this guy didn't try to like beat me up or something."
Well, then that just brings attention to us.
Yeah,
that's what I was worried about. I thought, now we're going to get more people that don't like Americans around us.
Yeah, it was definitely. That was about the only time I got that vibe, though. Was from that one little encounter. Everybody else was pretty cool to us, and. So we came back, and it was actually, we played the 4th of July celebration there, but it was actually on July 3rd, and we were flying back the next day, the morning of the 4th, and me and Steve were pumped up. We're going to go back and hang out in our hometown and celebrate this big tour we went on.
Nice hotel one night.
Yep. And then we get to Miami, Florida, after our flight had been delayed an hour. We get to Miami, and remember, our flight was delayed, and we sat there on the floor of the airport. Yeah. Oh man, it was a
watched a movie of some sorts on the floor of a Miami airport, July 5th.
Waiting
July 5th, and a beautiful bed, and July 5th on a
it was
hard
something.
Concrete floor.
And then we didn't get to celebrate, needless to say. So we came back, and then from that point, you were still playing with. Well, that time it was kind of a one and done thing. It was just like you were coming on to play the tour with me, and then. I think, did you, before, I remember Midwest Avenue, whenever I asked you, do you remember where you were at when I asked you if you wanted to start a band together? You know, it's not even a place anymore. It used to be like an auto service place. You know where Casey's is at the end of town? The little place is like across the street from it, there on the corner. I'd flagged you down to come over there, and you came over, and I talked to you about, starting a band. I think I'd already had my dad on drums and Beaver Hopper on bass. And you're like, yeah, son, I'll think about it. And so I was like, all right. So, and long story short, that started up and had Megan and Nikki. Well, Nikki was first, and Megan, and on vocals. And and that was about the time that you started learning how to play keyboard.
Right.
And that was you literally started like right around that time.
Yeah, because I don't know, felt like I needed to branch out a little bit more. Something I always wanted to learn.
Right.
But for songs that just didn't call for a banjo or a fiddle, or I always wanted to have something else, I guess.
Right.
And keyboard, you can play anything with that.
Yeah.
So
it's on almost every. So then after the keyboard. As I mentioned earlier, practicing for hours. He literally was keyboard all the time. And so with the keyboard and all that, say with Midwest Avenue, within that time period, what are some moments that stand out to you from the time that we did the whole Midwest Avenue thing, which is almost 4 years? Different members and stuff, but we were pretty much the same. I mean, it was the same group, but we had traded in different bass players here and there, and the girl singers kind of went away. But what are some like shows or some times that stand out to you from that time period?
Man, I remember that rainy night.
Rainy night.
Yeah, we had went to Springfield to play, and something happened there. Remember, we was going to play the cornfield or the
concert in the cornfield.
Yes, it was just torrential downpour.
We had gotten set up on a stage and everything. For that.
We tried to play 2 gigs that night, and that was just a nightmare. That's always a no-go. We've done it.
Yeah, every time you said that, it made me think of a time we played
Grafton.
Yeah, we did like a Friday night show, and we played Friday night in Jacksonville. Then Saturday night, me and you did like an acoustic thing, like 7 to 10 in Springfield. Then we drove to Jacksonville to play a Relay for Life event with the full band from like midnight to 2 a.m. Then that Sunday we had to be right back in Grafton at 11 a.m. to play, or 10 a.m. or something. That was
probably 1 usually.
Prior 1. Yeah, well, it felt early. I know that.
It's usually noon in Grafton, but
yeah, I remember that downpour. Hey, well, we won the Texaco Country Showdown
That's right.
On your birthday.
That's right. That was in Pittsfield.
Yep.
Yeah, I just went by that building today. I always think of that when I drive by that building.
That was a heck of a time. Is there any other things that stick out to you?
Man, there's been so many gigs. I don't.
Hundreds.
Wow. I can't right now.
We were talking about. I mean, my dad was talking about the time coming back from Champaign in the snow. And then you had a flat tire, like literally like right outside of town.
Or
was that a different time?
No, that was a different time.
Right.
It was a different time. It was going to Iowa then.
Yep.
But no, the snow was fun. Just a big, Chrysler van, but we had so much weight in it with all the equipment from his drums to my stuff, and 3 of us in there. And the closer we get to Whitehall on that interstate, the deeper it's getting. But I felt like I had enough. If I could keep my speed,
right.
I just felt like we could make it through this, because I did not want to be stuck.
Yep.
Outside of Manchester, and everybody else was pulling off, or they couldn't make it, and they were stuck. And I was just like, get out! I had it about to the floor,
right?
Keeping up my speed. Snow is just, how it flies over the front of the.
Especially the way the van is shaped too. It's the perfect shape to be plowing through snow because it'll just slide up and over.
And we had to wait, and it was going, and everybody stayed out of my way. And I got that thing home.
Heck yeah. That's what you do whenever you're traveling. You just got to keep moving forward.
Right.
That's the main thing. Yeah. So after Midwest Avenue, you let's see, was that? Yeah, you were played with Devin Clemens for a while after that, didn't you?
Yeah, well, Gracia Harrison.
Right. I say that all was kind of at the same time.
Well, yeah, I played with her for like a year or two.
Okay, so that was afterwards. I couldn't remember.
I played with her for a year or two, and then went with Devin for another couple of years or so. So,
yeah, we both played in Gracia's band. I mean, you played in the full extension for Gracia Harrison. She was on The Voice season 3. Super talented artist. I played with you guys for a while there in the beginning ish. So the main show that stands out to me was the Scotty McCreery show. Yeah. That was just a trip, wasn't it?
That was fun. Be able to play banjo in front of that many people, live, that kind of sound,
Oh yeah,
playing that song. I think it was called Banjo. Matter of fact.
Yeah.
Was it?
Was it? Yeah.
I think it was called Banjo.
Yeah. The Rascal Flatts tune.
I don't know if it was that one or not, but.
Or Giddy On Up, Giddy On Out. Is that it? I can't remember now. It may have been a banjo.
I don't know. It's fast.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it. But
it was that crowd was amazing. I remember I was just blown away by that, and just I don't know, something about that. When you get so many people together, that energy is just
energy's great. Yeah.
Nothing really comes close to comparing. Like that you can. That's nothing tangible, I guess.
Right. And I always like the fairs anyway. I like the sound of the rides and the smell of the corn dogs.
Oh yeah.
And
Speaking of, I remember at that fair. Did you try I know I did. It was like a donut hamburger instead of a hamburger bun. It was a glazed donut. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's like the most genius idea. I mean, I'm sure it probably took like 3 years off of my life, but it was good. So yeah, I'd only try it once a year. I wouldn't get too crazy with it. So after that, you played with Devin Clemens' band, and then after that, you were still continuing on playing
with both of you guys. I mean, you and
right.
Rick and yeah. pretty much just in 2 bands at that point.
And then, so when at what point was you like, I want to do another solo CD? Did you feel like you had like some unfinished business, or?
Well, I think I'd finally had enough songs written up, not only for 1 CD, but I knew I had enough for 2 if I really needed it. I was just really getting a whole catalog song. I mean, the songs over the last 5-6 years have just really come on. I mean, but that's kind of where I wanted to change and start writing more anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played so much music that music's still fine, but I want to try other challenges.
Of course, yeah.
And that's just what rounds out a musician, I think. So.
Yeah. So then, whenever you decided to go on to do this next record, because I didn't point out earlier that your first record, your first solo record, was Everything But Bass, was a Christian record,
Right.
And so, what kind of kept? I know you've written some other secular songs here and there, but what is it that kind of made you jump right back to stay on that same track and go with the Christian genre?
Well, that's just what I want to do. That's what I'm called to do.
I got you.
I know that. The words that I get are from him. I mean, they're not from me. I mean, I can't come up with this kind of stuff.
Right, I agree, man.
So, but like you said, I do enjoy. He's given me the ability to write anything, really. I mean, I can write Christian, I can write country, I could write rap if I really wanted to. I mean, I
think you did. I remember a song that I think you were working on. This was years ago. I remember vaguely you working on. I remember going on your basement, and be like, "Hey, check this out." I'm like, it was like left field from what I was expecting from Steve, but it was cool. So then so was this like? So what was the process after you decided? Hey, I really have enough songs for this project, and I want to go forward with it. It's like, what was the next things that happened after that?
Well, I knew I didn't have the recording studio was my biggest holdup, and last summer it just kind of hit me to start investing in that kind of equipment and really just do it on my own instead of trying to find a studio. Because as you know, that is a nightmare. So it was finding the software and I mean, last December I just picked some software, ordered it, and by Easter I had a CD. So
I couldn't believe it. He told me, he's like, "I'm building my own studio." I'm like, I mean, I knew if Steve puts his mind to something, he's going to do it. But I'm like, that's a crazy venture to go on, because in the little I've dabbled in it, in recording yourself, it's a job in itself. It's just like learning a whole nother language in a sense. So how was that process of really just setting yourself down and be like, all right, you're going to do this?
Well, it was intimidating. I mean, luckily we had YouTube, because I mean, it took me 3 days to even get sound through the computer. I mean, to even get a signal, and everything just took days. It seemed like to work out. But I just thought, man, if I could get this learned, it's like learn another instrument.
Yep.
And that's how I had to really look at it. Is this is something I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, so I need to learn it, because I've done everything around the recording part, I mean, playing all the instruments, singing, doing everything, but I just didn't know how to record. So I thought, why not? And with last winter being perfect winter to record, I mean,
a lot of bad weather.
And every winter, I just think, man, I could make a CD almost every winter if I wanted to, because weather gets bad, you can,
right.
Nothing else to do,
So I guess, for that record too, you played all the instruments on there, but something was different this time. You did play bass.
I did play bass on it. Yeah.
So what made you come up with the title of "What a Journey" for it? Because sometimes people use like the title, like a song as a title, but you decided to go with just a title for the whole project.
Right. Well, it's just summing up my life, I guess, at this point. It's just been a long ways ago, and been, like I say, doing this since I was really walking. I mean, I got that picture on the back of that CD I can't be but 5 or so probably on there. I had drums and beating on a drum set and a guitar over my shoulder, at 5. So I just really don't remember not doing an instrument. I mean, it's just been that long to where I always remember just hitting on drums or
Yeah.
or something, you know.
It's in your blood for sure, man. I tell you, I was really if you had to pick a favorite song off that album, what's your favorite one?
Man, that's always a rough one. On Your Way to the Cross is really.
Mm-hmm. And that was cool too. What you did with the, I remember you running speaking of the idea before you actually did it. If you listen to the track On Your Way to the Cross, there's actually a true hammer and nail going on, like a sound in the background, and that's something that was actually done. You did that.
Right.
It wasn't like a drop-in sound effect.
Sound effect, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a genuine effect.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool.
It was actually done off my uncle's anvil. He was a blacksmith here in Whitehall.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I learn something new every day. Was there anything else you want to add? I'll throw in your website, which is www.stevendalevincent.com. You got a new album out called What a Journey, and it is a fantastic record. And you can check him out on Facebook as well. And I'd say my favorite song still stands up to being Hand in Hand.
Oh, right.
But yeah, you can tell folks anything you want to tell.
No, just playing at churches now. So, give me a call. Get in contact with me somehow, and I do about an hour-long set. So
okay, yeah, and if you guys want to, if anybody's watching this and wants to reach out to Steve, that wants to talk to him about booking him for any events or anything at any churches or any upcoming Christian events that you guys have, feel free to shoot him a message on Facebook. Or what's your email address? Is it
Stephen Dale Vincent at hotmail.com.
Yep, Stephen. And I'll also put that in the show notes as well, so you guys don't, if you guys are listening to this or watching this, you don't have to rewind it or anything. It'll be right in the show note descriptions right below, as well as his website. And I'll put a couple of the links to Apple Music and Spotify, so you guys can check out his new record as well. And you're also selling the physical copies of the CD,
right,
which you can order on your website.
Right.
Yep. Right. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
No problem. Thank
It's
you.
been a great time. My brother from another mother. This is Stephen Dale Vincent. Be sure you check him out. Thank you guys for tuning in.